Welcome back, everyone, to DBDLeague. This is not Season 9. This is something equally exciting. It's the Scrim Night, where we are showing you some upcoming team, some uprising talents. Eunoia and No Loops. First of all, I love the logo of No Loops with this confused survivor and the question mark behind the No Loops. This is... such a meme, such a vibe that they have there. Eunoia, very, very mystical coming into DBDL with a team name related to the old ancient Greek legend. So definitely very interesting to have these guys around. Personally, never heard of them, but we will discuss them in a second. First of all, we have to introduce our wonderful guest for today. Yo-Yo, welcome in.
Hi, Dyer. As usual, it is great to be here casting, even if it's not for a tournament and just for some scrims. But scrims are always fun to watch, especially today with the killers that they will be playing. I think these sets will be great fun to spectate.
Absolutely. We love these new teams coming in, showing themselves, using this chance to show us what they got, because you never know. After the Season 9, we will have the Halloween tournament, and you always look for some teams that can come in, some teams that are offering something new to the table, maybe a different strategy, a different way of fighting. So yeah, this is the perfect chance for them to showcase what they got here. And I feel like our best of 5, so for everyone joining in, we are playing a best of 5, and we will play all 5 sets for the practice and the scrim reason, even if there's a winner decided early. So after a 3-0 or a 3-1, we will not say, okay, let's pack our bags and let's leave to bed. We will still play out all sets. We are going to see Singularity, Unknown, Artist, Slinger, and Wraith. So not really touching that S or high A tier maybe, but definitely not the S tier. A lot of unusual killer for comp DVD. Yo-Yo, do you think that's because we have newcomer teams that they are trying themselves out with these not so classical killers, or are they just wild Andes trying to show us a big match?
I feel like it could definitely be both, because of course, when you're new, you just want to play who you're good at, but that's not always, the best decision. But, I mean, I always like watching Singularity a lot just because it's interesting, security cams. So I'm glad that we are getting variety at least.
Yeah, the variety is huge at this today. As that Singularity, Unknown, just the start already. The first 2 sets that are kind of important. If this would be a normal best of 5, then the first 2 sets would be really setting the tone of who's taking the dominant role and who's taking the advantage. Unknown, recently added to a game, actually finds himself in a very popular spot for scrims, for the competitive environment. People enjoy him a lot. Singularity, our first set, is a killer that we see more and more often coming into comp DBD. Seems like people like this aspect of, on the one hand, with the cameras, you kind of secure your map control, and on the other hand, you're still somewhat oppressive in a chase, and you can teleport to multiple survivors, spreading the pressure. And this balance between these two aspects seems like something that's very important. Yo-Yo, maybe before we are loading in, because the teams are fast setting up, big shout out already for that. Singularity, what's the most important thing for the survivor team that will be no loops, and we can only hope that they will have some loops available in the map? What's the most important thing to do for your survivor team when going against the Singularity?
Mid-chase EMPs, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any further thoughts on the matter. That is the most important thing fighting a Singularity to me. Somebody coming in and getting the gunk off of you.
Yeah, I mean, it is super frustrating for the killer as well, right? You're trying to set everything up, and then you are at the same time, you're so sure, okay, in this next loop, I will teleport because I have this camera over there. And there's also going some strategical planning into that, and then the survivors are just taking that from you. So I really like this aspect that you just mentioned about this mid chase, because it does require quite some coordination. Either you have the EMP ready on yourself or you need the team member rotating in. And testing that, especially in a scrim night, I think is also a very good feedback and a very good experience that the teams can take from this best of 5 here in terms of how good are we actually, like on what point are we at the moment, what is the status quo in the team, and what do we maybe have to work on. Then I'm just throwing questions at you while the players are getting ready. Unknown, even though he's very loved in scrims in comp DBD, he's still dividing the opinions. Some people really like him, some people don't. Where do you stand in this? Do you like the Unknown in comp, or do you still have a little bit of problems with him?
I would definitely say I like the Unknown in comp. It's another one of those killers where I would say that it's pretty much everything it does requires skill other than like setting down illusions, because even that takes some forethought. But I think it's interesting because I think having a bouncing projectile in this game that isn't Trickster with that one purple add-on is cool and fun.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most popular ones. One for the fun and one kind of at the same time this value that you receive from it. Short interruption, by the way. We are on no delay during the scrim nights. This is our chance to talk to you guys, our wonderful audience that is coming time and time around, a little bit personally. So if you have any questions, any feedback, anything to discuss, anything like that, just drop it today. We'll get to it. And there's the first question already. Why not try killers that aren't in Season 9 pool during the scrim nights? Jeff, that is a wonderful question because I do agree. We are basically sleeping there on the chance of getting some data, getting some impression. The problem is that Season 9 is taking quite some resources, and we would need to still create a balance for the killers that are not in the pool, and I'm afraid we are not able to provide that at the moment. But it is a good idea that I will definitely note down. I have a little piece of paper always during the community nights, taking some notes. So yeah, it's actually a good idea because this would be a chance to test a killer, maybe even experiment with the killer on different maps and then see how they're doing. So thank you for that suggestion. Yeah, we are loading in, ladies and gentlemen. We are having the first match coming up. Singularity. Eunoia is going to play the killer. No loops will be on the survivor side, and we are already on the Dead Dog Saloon. And here we go. That's going to be Corrupt Intervention, Sloppy Butcher, Pop Goes the Weasel, and Eruption. I would say, Yo-Yo, that's a build where you do not take a lot of risks and you kind of go with the safe way that is established in comp.
Of course. I mean, you know, tried and true, don't fix what's not broken. But I've always liked this map for Singularity. Obviously, it being one of the smallest maps in the game means that security cameras just get more work done than they usually do. But also, I was a kid who loved cowboys growing up, so this map's still awesome to me.
So we have a little bit of the good old memories linked there as well. And our killer is trying to get the chase onto the first survivor here, moving behind the main building. Unfortunately, the camera placement didn't work out there in their favor. We do see a vault coming out. Interesting to see that we will not see the broken door, but this allows us to catch up to the survivor significantly quicker and getting that teleport out of the way. So the first injury coming in right here together with the Sloppy. That's definitely going to be a little bit of time loss for the team. And Sloppy Butcher is always an interesting perk for me that I really enjoy. Gris, thank you for the sub and the support of DBDLeague in our tournaments. But Sloppy is kind of forcing this tactical decision making between, are you going for a reset or will you go and try pressure the gens? And that's going to be the down coming out relatively quickly here. Our killer can definitely be happy with that. However, our survivor team is not sleeping at all.
Yep, they seem to be slaying pressure on those gens pretty well. Looks like they have a bunch of EMPs ready too. Epitaph getting hooked first, and the first gen comes out in the town corner. I usually find this kind of a rough one to finish early, but wherever the survivors have gone, because they all seem to have vanished. Wow. I don't know, I was just expecting to see anyone, but no, Ace has gone to main, one of them is on basement stay up. Claudette taking the chase at Shack. Or not. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like we're doing some good old camping and forcing the second stage here, which it seemed like Claudette kind of being a little bit too risky there in the shack and handing out an injury too early. Also, we have Sirens and George here with the applications of the power on their back. I never know how to really call that, but they need to get rid of that as well, otherwise we might face a risky teleport right there. There was the removal, but instantly back onto the main building, so our killer well aware what generators are going to be pressured, and right after getting the second stage out, we'll go into the chase with the next survivor that will be punished, however, with the second generator, but we are going to give the survivors some wiggle room here, and they might go, or hopefully go, for the rescue. That's going to happen now. 3v1 is prevented for now, but I would expect our killer to go back towards the hook and force the tunnel out.
Yeah, that Shack pallet dropped on an overclocked Singularity. It did not do too much. Gonna see if they can find Alan. They find Alan. Alan is taking him to main. I do wonder, okay, yeah, there's the mid-chase EMP I was talking about. That is ever so important. But can Best get Alan? That is the question here. Drops the pallet at the tile. Let's see if they make it to anything. Wow. Wow, barely. Teleport?
Yeah, he's trying, and I'm afraid that's going to be enough. Unfortunately, that's going to be a quick trial for our survivor right here in the removal that every killer is aiming for. Because honestly, when you're playing the 3v1 in competitive Dead by Daylight, it does feel like you're playing a completely different game. Basically, the new game mode that Behavior announced for summer is coming out every time you are tunneling out a survivor early. And now you have the following problem. One survivor is going to be in the chase soon and then afterwards hooked. So that means a second survivor will need to rotate for the unhook, and the third survivor will be in a chase right after getting the hook stage in, and that drops the generator regression towards 0. We see it right here. We do have one survivor down. The next one is now going to be forced to go for the pickup while the third survivor is in the chase. Luckily though, the survivors at least got the fourth generator done, but they are at a very deciding turning point here. We might see a slug into the 4K. They might recover and then be able to reset and split up again, but whoever makes the next mistake, Yo-Yo, will face a very, very difficult situation here.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's already looking rough, and Singularity has found the last survivor needed to secure this 4K, because I don't believe any of them have Unbreakable. Well, at least she doesn't have the gunk on her yet, so it's theoretically feasible, but things are not looking good. Yeah, okay. Couldn't even finish my sentence before Caster's Curse happened. Very solid camera placement and viewing through, I must admit.
Yeah, he turned this Dead Dog Saloon into his arena, and he had a good overview of the survivors at any given point. I mean, this is the very impressive result that comes out of it. A 4K here, 2 slugs that, by the way, we don't even need to find, because we do count a bleed out just as a normal execution, so all the hook stages and the fresh hook being awarded as well. Yet we are managing to collect the meat pieces that we left on the Dead Dog Saloon here, so we make it an even more clean 4K. 4K1, however, is one of the most famous win condition or tie conditions, we could say. A lot of teams are going into the 4K on one generator. The most replays happen because of a 4K with one generator remaining, and especially on that Dog Saloon, this is a very tricky win condition because you are forced to break this 3-gen in the upcoming game. And we all know that Dog Saloon, we all played thousands of public games here on this map. You can have a horrible 3-gen on the Gallows area. You can have a horrible 3-gen towards the main building with 2 neighbor generators at the houses section. So 4K1 sounds easy, and you will say, yeah, come on. Eunoia will just need to smash all the generators, but especially on a map like this, Yo-Yo, it's a very, very hard win condition, actually.
Yeah, definitely. It's 3-gens on this map can be rough. That's why when I mean, of course, I'm no professional, but when I play on this map, I try to keep main generator for our last 3 gens because that's difficult for most killers to deal with. Not exactly this one though. As we saw earlier, this Singularity kind of just kept pressuring everyone that was on main balcony all the time, just teleporting and gunking people. It was kind of rough.
Yeah, it definitely was, especially for the opening trial into the Scrim Night as well, right? Where you're coming in with your team, especially the Survivor team. So it's now the performance of 4 individuals here from No Loops. That's definitely important to mention as well. I feel like when your killer player is coming in and he has a rough game, okay, that's one person of your team having a rough match. The rest of the squad can try to balance it out. The rest of the squad can work with that. But here, unfortunately, we do have the Survivor team, so more like the majority of Team No Loops that had a very rough start here. So we can only hope that the killer of No Loops will definitely be able to counter that. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we are switching back towards the campfire chat very early on. Also, a huge shout out to our producer. Producer is always a job that just deserves the biggest shout out. Savannah is producing today, a very stressful task. You're responsible for showing the audience the best possible experience. You're responsible for what's happening on the stream. So just very early on, a big shout out here for taking the production today. Then in the background, Flixie and Dorolog managing everything on the back and the live score sheet as well. So shout out to them as well. Do you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, since we entered the break and we are now going to set up the upcoming game with the Singularity on the Dog Saloon? There would be a little chance to go into any discussions, into any feedback you have about the Scrim Nights or Season 9, any questions about the future. If you want to know the breakfast routine of our staff members, anything is possible today, but we do have one. We have a very interesting question. Why does humans have to make everything competitive? Ego is a serious problem in the world. I don't necessarily think that making things competitive has to do with ego. I do think it's very normal that people are trying to compete with each other, not for the sake of ego, but for the sake of getting better. And I do think people have a lot of fun versing each other and going against each other. We are even becoming competitive with ourselves. I do think a lot of people are getting into their car, and when Google Maps tells them I will be home at 1:20 p.m., a lot of people say, "Nay, I will show you that 1:19 I will be home." A lot of people are wearing Apple Watches and they are running 20 minutes and it's tracked, and the next day they will try to challenge themselves and try to run 21 minutes or 22 minutes. Yeah. So I think competitive is in the nature of human being for pushing our own limits. And I do feel like that competitive in a social environment has the big advantage. You get direct feedback. You make friends, you make connections, you're in a social environment. Interest of people is boosting and motivating you to go even deeper into practicing. So I don't know. I mean, even in school, getting a mark is sometimes pressuring, but one big function of marking in school is also trying to challenge you for the next exam and trying to challenge you for the next test. That might not work for every student and every learning type, but for some students it does work. So I think saying in general that competitive aspect of something and ego are correlating is not correct. That would be my my presentation as a philosophy wannabe professor. Yeah, I don't know. Yo-Yo, how is it for you? Do you have the same when you see a time where you're supposed to arrive by Google Maps or something? Do you also say I'll be 1 minute earlier than that? Because I certainly have that.
Yeah, I always try to be earlier at least. I can't always, but I do try. I do generally agree with your opinion on competitiveness and human nature. I don't have too much to add to it.
Yeah, I think the ego only starts if people are starting to define themselves over their skill in a competition, and then where it's becoming problematic. But then I also think that there's a problem at the person doing it, because if you are like a healthy self-confidence or a healthy self-picture should mean that you are proud of who you are, accepting your personality, accepting your interactions, having positive interaction, feeling like you're in a social network that is backing you up, that you get help and assistance from. And I do think genuinely when you need competition in order to define yourself above others, then this is already some sort of compensation. That might be exaggerating now, but I do feel like this is one of the original sources where it's coming from. And then I certainly agree it is problematic. But I also think you don't always have to get offended over it. If someone is egoing you, like, I don't know, if I'm getting slugged in pubs because someone has to demonstrate me how insane they played. And it could be the same in comp if someone winning a DBD comp match against me and then he has to tell me how insane he is or how much better he is compared to me, then I will say, okay, obviously this person needs this right now, maybe in self-proving, maybe in increasing their self-perception. So take it, but I will not be affected from it because I have other stuff and yeah, I don't know. That is not supposed to mean that comp DBD players have nothing else in life, by the way. Don't take it out of context and put me on Twitter. Yeah. And what about this truth? Only 3 things can make man happy. Drink, food, and a sleeping man to see a job well done. Where is a job done with any competitive anything like racing, Google Maps? Well, that was not my statement. I didn't say that I take a job done and positive self-picture from beating the Google Maps time. I just said that there you can tell the nature of people trying to challenge themselves. Just like when they are going to run, and today I ran 20 minutes and tomorrow I'll run 22 minutes. When I run 22 minutes, I will also not say a job well done and having this as one of the 3 pillars, but I will still feel good about it. And I like challenging myself. So, but we have Sponge 1v1, Ochi, I hope, Papa, and Fabra joining in, and we are about to load into the second match. Siren's End is going to take the killer. We all remember that's going to be a 4K on 1 generator being the tie condition. So we need all the generators done from Eunoia and no loops to take the win of the first set here. Would actually need to show us an absolute insane killer game. Now back to analyzing the game nature. 4K2, Yo-Yo, how do you achieve that with this Singularity on Dead Dog Saloon? Do you lock down a 4-gen setup, or do you try to be aggressive on defend, like going into the first chases and getting the injuries?
I think if anyone can hold a 4-gen, it's definitely Singularity, but against a coordinated team who is using EMPs very, very liberally as they should be, it's probably going to be rough no matter what, getting a 4K2 or better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's infeasible at all. Like, it's certainly possible. I suppose we'll
Yeah.
just see.
Yeah, 4K2 is always, I don't know, it has
I don't think this is the correct map.
Yeah, we will have to go for a quick reset. It's okay. We are all new in DBD. I mean, us not. We are the old ones here. But it's 2 newcomer teams being in. They play the first time in DBDL. You can be very, very nervous. So let's just correct that real quick, and then we are going in. Hex, Scorpio, and Scottish FG. Thank you so much for the subscriptions as well. You're supporting DBDLeague, the tournaments, and everything that's going on in the background. So we are going in straight again. Loading into our second Singularity match. Killer seems to be ready. This time he found the Dead Dog Saloon in the settings here. Yeah, it will be very interesting to see what strategy they are going to pick. Like either this very aggressive playstyle. The big downside is then you really, really need your injuries, and then you really, really need to guarantee that the downs are coming through. You don't have that necessarily with the locking down a 3 or 4-gen setup, especially Dead Dog Saloon is a map where you can receive such generator setups into your advantage, so that would definitely be something you can work around here. Though if the survivor team is too coordinated, as you said, with the EMPs, with the correct gen pressure, then you will regret picking this lockdown strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a matter of how the survivors will play against you, and you can have a plan. You can always have a plan before the match starts, but it almost never goes exactly how you want it, and that's the nature of this game, adapting to things on the fly.
Yeah, that's an important thing here, the adaptability from the teams, right? You have either face a very, very aggressive Singularity now that is trying to get the downs as early as possible, or you face this lockdown strategy that is trying to prevent you from going into a 3 or 4-gen. 3-gen might be even the realistic try here, and trying to go for a tie, which would still be a good result. We have bad news already for all the no loops fans, because this 3-gen on Gallows area definitely did not happen. We have a somewhat okay 3-gen over here. The problem with the mid-street generator is that you have a lot of safety and you have access towards the shag, somewhat towards the main building with taking a hit, so that's not the best 3-gen here, but you can definitely make that work, and we are already in the first chase with Sponge here doing a good job. We see a Bamboozle though. Yo, this is a rather unique perk on the Singularity, because usually we see Singularities just teleporting and therefore just taking advantage and not being in need of a Bamboozle.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen it before, but I'm never opposed to new stuff. It probably makes Shaq a lot easier for this character, which I don't know if I'd necessarily say that's something Singularity normally struggles with, but it will still definitely help. Taking Claudette to the loop in front of Dead Dog, and Claudette is leaving over to the town. I feel like this palette cannot be too good to play against Singularity in, but we will see. Still running the Singularity for its money's worth, dropping the palette, and there you go. Yep, that was certainly a down at that pallet. I hate that thing as Survivor.
Yeah, this is one of the very tricky ones where you are being thrown over by the game like this. Still gotta say though, Claudette did actually waste quite some time here. This relatively unsafe ballot. Fabra was around as well, so we can tell Eunoia definitely coming in with a different approach there, much more aggressive, I would say, ready to take body blocks. Of course, this is easier when you have the win condition, and especially when you know that you just pronunciation on or intonation on just have to get all 5 generators done. Of course, you're trying to delay the first down as long as you can, so sending someone for taking the body block there is definitely understandable, but I like to see it here. Eunoia not going to be too scared, ready to take some risks and making the most out of the team play. Steve is going to find the attachment of the power here as well. Sponge is being rescued. We don't see a reset just yet, but we also don't see the tunnel out, which is surprising because especially when the generator win condition is pressuring you, you would expect that the Singularity is trying to cut you down to a 3v1 as quick as they can.
Yeah, it's definitely strange to not see somebody tunneling the first hook out, especially in such a win condition, but I mean, like I said, I'm always up for new stuff, and, you know, playstyle can be new. Taking Steve to this tile does not look like there is too much going on. There's currently a camera there, somebody EMP'd. Looks like we're starting to get body blocks, or protection hits taken. Going off of Steve and going for Sponge 1v1, which is the only person that they have hooked so far. They might be going for the tunnel out now. Facing at water tower. Good. Let's see if she has to use this pallet. She does.
Rough position for our Claudette here, but she does manage to get away. Really, really good mind gaming there. I feel like with an additional camera and a teleport, we could have made a little bit more damage for the survivor team right there. This way, Claudette will actually escape, and this means that the Singularity not only lost quite significant amount of time, we also need to make sure that we find her again, but unfortunately, Claudette didn't hold W originally, is still around the area there for Sirens, and is going to find this survivor and is trying to get the tunnel out now. But the third generator is about to be completed. Another generator is on the 50% mark, and these 2 generators that are currently progressed would already bring us all the way into the tie condition. So basically the killer of no loops needs a 4K right now.
Yep, and I'm not really sure that's going to happen in the current circumstances. I mean, Sponge 1v1's about to go down, but that's, you know, only 1 hook so far. It's kinda... They can likely finish that generator very soon, and then it's guaranteed a tie at worst, and that... Yep, I don't think there's anything the Singularity can do about that, so it's at minimum a tie.
Intense Steve repairing on the windmill into the tie condition that is now guaranteed. 1 more gen or a 4K, ladies and gentlemen. That will be the question here. 10 hook stages to go would be on the to-do list for the Singularity. That's quite a massive task, and we also need to remember that we have 2 healthy survivors and still a lot of resources on the map as well. We haven't thrown too many filler pallets yet. We still have good access towards the generators as well, because one of them is in the corner of the gallows area, so we absolutely don't need to worry about a potential problem here with the generator setup. Deadlock Saloon usually known to be problematic with 3 gens, and basically Eunoia here with the most perfect 3-gen split on the Deadlock Saloon that is imaginable. We're moving over here. Fabra is going to take the chase, and again we are not going to execute the tunnel out here, and considering that, we might even see a double or triple on the other generators. So Yo-Yo, if this chase is going on, then I don't see any chance that that final generator will be stopped.
Yeah, I don't really either, but, I mean, hey, still got the rest of the game to go. Dropping Shack Pallet at this, yeah, haven't had to use it prior to that. That's kind of concerning, but oh well, right. Looks like Singularity is just dropping Nia, and looks like the last generator is about to be done with what looked like resilience. So Steve has been pounding that thing out. There's the adrenaline on Fabra. Just gonna kick the pallet near the gate. Now there's less protection near the gate. Going off into the middle of nowhere to get down, presumably so other people can open the gates. Sound strategy most of the time. But, yeah, Sirens and just... I wouldn't even say they were necessarily doing bad, but the survivors were just kind of playing out of their minds this game, you know?
Yeah, they set a tone for this. They set a really, really impressive tone, because we are not talking about the fifth generator being completed here. We are talking about 2 stages during the entire game, and then this 3 stages in the end game. So 5 stages overall. Eunoia will treat this as a 2-stage, basically, giving up on Papa, which is not nice, by the way, if you want to have a nice family, that you give up on your Papa. But like, they will treat it as a 2-stage for themselves. Mentally, they have put themselves in a great spot here. A really, really intense showing, taking the first set point here as well. And the rough stuff is now that they are going to stay on the survivor side. So they just juiced as a team. They just proved their chemistry. They just played an amazing trial, and they will carry that into the second set, which will be the Unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on a break. Is there any question, any feedback, any discussion about Scrim Nights Season 9, the future? What t-shirt color staff is wearing today, when we have washed our car last time? If not, then we will take the chance to go on a quick break, filling our water bottles and everything, but I don't want to cut out anyone with a question, so please feel free to ask that, and we will give you 10 seconds to type. Not longer, to set up a little bit of time pressure here in the Scrim Night, same as we do for the teams in the background, to get ready as quick as possible. I don't think I understand that question with the toilet stuff. What was for breakfast this morning? Honestly, nothing. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning because I was driving to a teacher workshop 2 hours away, where I was the entire day, and stress in the morning. I'm not a breakfast person anyway, but when there is time stress on top, yeah, then it's difficult. How long does it take to upload the YouTube video? YouTube videos are uploaded every second day in Season 9. We are currently in... Wait, did I get pranked? What?
Skivity Toilet is like a video series.
Oh yeah, I don't watch stuff like this. I'm too old for this, guys. I'm closer to 30 than 20. Like, you cannot pull this on me. It doesn't work anymore. Last year you could have done that, but now I'm almost 30. 30 is closer to 50 than 0, so I'm basically 50, and 50 is being rounded up to 100 based on mathematical rules. So I can retire. I can be old man Dyer. Yeah, but every second day the things are uploaded. What's the current thoughts about Wagner in comp? The problem is the RNG factor of the killer. That is something the rule committee has to figure out, if they consider that fair enough to even make him comp ever in the future. Same as Pick. That's the reason why Pick is not played. So yeah, this is the big... Mechanical wise, for the looping and stuff is kind of fine, I think, and could be interesting, especially with the counterplay that teams will develop after just a couple of weeks. But with the problem of the RNG is tricky. What subject are you teaching? I'm teaching German, I'm teaching politics and economics, and I'm coaching in debating. Any thoughts on letting OCE play in DBDL in the future? Not at the moment. What's your favorite food? Very easy. a handmade Greek baguette or bread and just some tzatziki, some gyros. I love the Greek kitchen. It's easy, it's simple, it's true to their culture, and it's so good. And this is what I love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is anyone a Greek food fan? Do we have Greek food fans, Yo-Yo?
I have not had too much. The only I believe the only thing I've had is like shawarma, and that is not particularly my thing. I have never had anything else Greek as far as I remember.
I can tell you, if you have the next chance, go for it. Possible to add anti-camp in the future? Probably not. First, because we pretty often follow the devs on their game design. The only thing that we banned against their stance is the anti-camp mechanic with the self-unhook. Usually, as long as they are fine with, like, let me word it this way. If they wouldn't be fine with camping anymore, they would introduce more stuff than just the anti-camp bar that doesn't properly work anyway, or takes you still 2 minutes to get it on 100%. But for now, it's a strategy that we would really like to keep. When will we see you in comp again? Probably never, because I'm too old and my reaction times are 2 minutes. How about ignoring the chests altogether to make matches with Wagner less dependent on RNG? That would be an option, for example, because we have the rule of not opening chests anyway, and we could say the Wagner chests are falling under this rule, or we just... yeah, we could just add that. That would be good. Best food in my life. Yeah, it was so good. I studied German in Bochum. Where did you study, if you want to tell? I'm from southern Germany, in Baden-Württemberg. I studied there. Yeah, I studied for the good old 5 years. Then I went 1.5 years into this testing phase called Referendariat for all the Germans, and then it was finally done. When will No Loops play? They are playing right now. We're setting up the next game, and I kind of wanted to go on a break to fill my water bottle, but people are so nice and they keep chatting, so I'm chatting back. I cannot leave you. Retirement scrims where all the grandpas can play. Yes, we should.
26 is not that old. Come on, man.
But it's different. You know, when I was 25, I was saying like, yo, I'm mid-20 and it was okay. But when I turned 26, it does scratch at the edge of my brain now that I'm closer to 30. It does something.
That doesn't mean you're old.
Yeah, that's true. But it does... I mean, my reaction time was always bad, to be fair. Like, if you threw a ball at me and I saw it coming, I would still get hit in the head. Okay, guys, we will play a very unloved ad break to force you into supporting DBDL. In the meanwhile, we will set up the match, and then we will see you in a moment. Hello people, that was a very, very short break. We are now here with the Unknown, a relatively new killer, but the teams have already developed a ton of strategies, and we do see a little bit of a change here for No Loops killer, and that's going to be the Hex Ruin this time with a No One Escapes death. Yo-Yo, is the team getting scared a little bit after Eunoia showed us such an impressive survivor game?
I don't know if scared's the right word. I would say it's more taking precautions, such as No-Ed Ruin, I suppose. Those are definitely precautions, especially No-Ed. Already cleansing that Ruin, though, that is so sad.
Yeah, I feel like Eunoia came in with a very, very clear plan here into this Scrim Night. They were really, really motivated. I mean, No Loops was as well. That's not the issue here, but Eunoia, I don't know, they feel aggressive at the moment. They feel like they were fighting themselves into the match here. And at the moment, I feel like that No Loops is getting a little bit stunned by this energy Eunoia is presenting us here and bringing on the table. Eunoia is playing very aggressively on the Survivor side, very confident as well. So they are just delivering here.
Yeah, sure seems it. I have to say, I have not seen Unknown at Shack too much. Taking him away from Shack, which is, wow, narrowly dodges that UVX, yes, narrowly dodges that UVX, now going to play mind games at this pallet, just drops it, no mind games needed. Looks like Unknown is done with Papa, however, just uninterested. Getting their first gen really close to done here. Does not look like... Yeah, definitely not gonna interrupt it. Sponge 1v1, getting in the chase. Still has lives, so this can be over before it even starts. But let's see.
Yeah, let's find out here. Our killer definitely needs to start dominating the Survivor team a little bit, and with dominating a Survivor team, we do not talk about 1 or 2 injuries. We need injuries, we need hook stages, we need to force them into resets, and the list of tasks that the Survivor team has to do in terms of countering the killer, in terms of fulfilling the rescues, needs to be long. So we're getting them away from the generators, and right now we do not even have that injury. We are kinda hitting our bullets. We are forcing them time and time again into having the status effect, but it's not enough just yet because we're also rotating too much. The survivors are not giving us the room. They are making sure that they always reach the next tile, and this is problematic because our killer at the moment is not making a proper decision. He's trying to be everywhere. He's trying to fend the generators in multiple areas of the map, which is a nice idea because of course you want to prevent them from getting completed, but if you switch too often you will give some sort of safety towards the survivors. So committing to Papa here is definitely a good choice. Now we can only hope that we are falling in some sort of dynamic, but unfortunately 4 gens are completed for the first hook stage. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is really good by the survivors here, and Papa's already unhooked because the Unknown teleported across the map. Oh, looks like the Unknown is coming back for Papa though. I mean, at this point it seems like the only thing that the Unknown can do is tunnel out a kill, but not going to do that. That 3-gen over there looks kinda bad for the Unknown. That's how I'll put that. It's not looking good for the killer here. That's what I have to say on the current subject matter. Getting the firecracker blind and just causing it to leave. It was done.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible what they are putting on the table. Even on this generator here, at least someone was around 15 to 20% of progression. The killer is running after these survivors, not the survivor running away from the killer. That's the problem here in terms of the micromanagement on the map here. The killer is trying to be faster than them. The killer is trying to get ahead of them. It doesn't work. The survivors are outrunning our killer here. They are too aggressive. We do see the next survivor here in a little bit of a difficult spot on the edge map, but even now we are going to break the pallet and we will give them some distance here. And this is the tricky situation that we were describing earlier. You need to make a choice, and your choice needs to be to now start chasing. It needs to be to start being a little bit more aggressive. The Lithe coming out from Claudette as well, leading us far away, and again we are not able to take it down here and not able to progress the hook stages. So our Unknown trying a lot, unfortunately never making it into a result.
Yeah, like today, this team of survivors is just currently playing out of their mind. It is domination, right? Because like the two jets that are close together are kind of rough, but the third one is just so out of the way that defending all of this as just the unknown, that is not looking too feasible at the moment. I mean, you know, anything can happen, right? But at the moment, I don't really see the unknown getting a good win condition here to set for the next game.
Yeah, that's the rough thing here, because also no loops would fall into a little bit of a setback. We already have the 1-0, we have the very, very strong survival performance again, so the pressure is rising to take this second set point here. A little bit of back and forth again, trying to catch the injured survivors. Unfortunately, it feels like the communication is too strong on the survivor side. No One Escapes Death is coming out. Will we see an endgame speed run? That's going to be the interesting question right here. One survivor is around, was trying to set up for a potential save here, has now been found by the killer, and we do not have a lot of safety right here, so that's going to be the second down. I would expect the survivors to pick up Claudette though, but it seems like they are kinda happy with the result they have. The Noed is right here next to the Claudette, so that's definitely very tricky. Our killer is trying to push one survivor out of the door, which is a very smart move. So you only have to worry about Steve now. But that was a lot of time away from our ace, so we might find the pickup right here, but even now the killer is coming back. Will Steve make it out, or will we actually see the very, very rough photo finish from the killer? And the answer is we will see it. No One Escapes Death coming in clutch from one stage to potentially 3 kills right here. And this, on the other hand, tells us, Yo-Yo, that the match is only done when we are out of the door. So potentially, Eunoia got a little bit too excited here.
Yep, that is very true. You know, like I said, Noed wasn't them being scared, it was them taking a precaution, and it seems to have paid dividends here. I suppose Papa could still wiggle, but what are the odds, right? Never say never, I suppose.
I mean, this is the moment where I hear the first time chatter who's lurking in the shadows, watching DBD comp for a while now, from 200 meters away, lurking in the shadows, in the fog, like Entity's partner, now getting on the keyboard, activating caps lock and writing "Know it in comp Omega Lul" or something like this. This is the moment where they are coming out. But yeah, this was definitely an insane endgame clutch here, and yeah, it's a very important lecture to note down. Everyone at home, everyone in chat, paper out, pen out. We are doing a little bit of a lesson here. Please write down after me. The match is only done when we left the trial. Do you guys have... You're actually spamming it. I love you so much. This is why I love the DBDL community. But this is an experience that Eunoia will take away here, that they need to be more careful in the end game, that they need to be aware of a potential hex perk, and that No One Escapes Death can do a lot of damage, especially against the survivor team that is getting a little bit too motivated and a little bit ahead of themselves. 9 stages at the end. We can be very proud towards the killer of no loops here. Facing a rough trial and then bringing it to 9 stages. That's definitely a very exciting comeback here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was saying it's looking rough, but not impossible. And yeah, that's why I always say it's not impossible, because it's very rarely impossible. Even if it looks unwinnable, it's not.
Yeah, Terioka and Peachy, very good noting there. Such a teacher. Yeah. Scottish, well done. That's an A+. All right, guys. From 1 stage to 9, that's definitely a big speed run that we have seen right here. We will have to check if our other team will be able to show us this as well. Eunoia, if they will make a speed run in the end game when they're playing Killer now, or if they get the hook stages together. Definitely 10 stages on the Unknown will be an interesting win condition. Eunoia has to deliver again. Otherwise, I do see no loops now in an advantage, and we would bring it to 1-1. Would be exciting as well. So the rematch of the Unknown will be right here for you after a very short break. Welcome back, everyone, and I would like to open with a question from the chat. He's Unlucky is asking, how does the match layout work? Is it specific killers voted or random? Basically, 2 teams are playing the same killer, so Unknown Team A against Survivors Team B, and Unknown Team B against Survivors Team A. The killers are decided in a picks and bans process. You can find all the killers that are currently in the pool on... Wow. On our Discord server, and then the teams are doing a picks and bans process, and then the Team A picks 1 killer, Team B picks 1 killer, depending on best of 3, 5, or 7. They're the picks like this. So let's see. I like how you improved the transmission to make comments while there's a wide time between the matching times. Yeah, we are trying. Community night is something where we really enjoy that we are for once not living 10 minutes in the future, and where we really try to have some sort of communication. Yeah, it's really nice. So Apple Source is on the hook. That is the first hook stage, unexpectedly early. But since Leonidas has a win condition of 10 stages, Yo-Yo, I feel like our killer is really happy with that.
I guess definitely a lot to live up to, but I mean, if you can tunnel someone out this early, it just becomes easier. I do like the build. I don't know how many hexes they're gonna cleanse this game, or, you know, if Ruin will even get that much value before the first person dies. But I do really like this build. Looks like that is stage 2 on Apple Pulse already. Yeah, mostly just proxying and lobbing, what do you call those projectiles? Grenades? I mean, they're not grenades. Bombs, whatever. 3 gens already being done before Applesauce is even dead, though. That's good for the survivors.
I don't want to hurt anyone, but be aware of what's dropping now. Since we were just unsure how these bullets are called, could we say that their name is unknown to us? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are shutting down the entire org. Please come around next year when we are ready to recover from this. That's going to be a pallet stun right here, and our survivor is on a run, and this run better be long, because we mentioned it, 10 hook stages are needed. Yeah, we got 3 generators out of the way, but if we would lose a survivor this early into the game, then there can be a very quick turn, and the game can basically go on a standstill here. Considering we have Undying, Ruin, and Pentimento, there's also so much damage this perk build can cause. As soon we only have 3 survivors, and the generator pressure is significantly dropping, but it does feel like our Nia is safe now.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Going on Civil, let's see that balance. Yep. There's that balanced into Shack. Gonna run Unknown around, actually just leaving Shack and going for Ada on the generator. Surprisingly, I was almost expecting this Ruin to get immediately cleansed like it did last game, but that just didn't happen, and they still have done 3 generators. It's quite impressive. Jorge getting rid of his contamination, infection, whatever it's called. Getting the M1 at the Z-wall, although they are now teleporting to center. Does not look like there is a lot going on at center at the moment.
Yeah, this is the danger now when things are not happening anymore, when the activity of a survivor team is reducing and dropping down a little bit, then always comes the tricky moment where you need to make the decision also, do you maybe sacrifice the remaining percentages in the generator and go for a full reset, or do you try and potentially risk an overcommitment here? We do, however, see quite some damage being taken from the Hex Ruin here, third injury coming out as well. We do have a Hex Totem right here, but we should be relatively careful with that one. We do have 80% on the gen whatsoever. I feel like our survivors are doing a quite good rotation at the moment. Whenever one person is leaving a generator, then there's the next person coming in. That was a very interesting loop right there. Will we see the teleport? That's going to be the interesting question. Great pathing by Nia here, not even allowing this 50-50 mind game between teleport or just looping around, instead turning away from the loop. And ladies and gentlemen, a very, very interesting or very good move is always when you are endowed in comp DBD, you just hold W. Also, thank you for the raid, Vulpes70. Vulpes70 is one of our artists responsible for a great chunk of the stream setups that you see in Season 9. So a big laugh there and a big shout out. He started streaming recently. If you want to check him out, you should definitely do that. We do see the last generator coming through. A huge move here now by No Loops, definitely coming out very, very strong. Really like to see that. They are not sleeping. After the first set, we were a little bit worried, we could say. But honestly, they are showing so strong right now that they want this 1-1 and that they want to tie it up early on. And I feel like that caused new energy in them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Getting that down on the Ada, but this game was just, you know, I think the survivors played very well, even with the 2K. Definitely gave this unknown what's for, and Epitaph might crawl out, actually. No. It's so sad. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen, really.
This is the moment where we need this good old sprint burst from, I don't know which version, 1.5 or what it was, where you could use the sprint burst on the ground and you got a speed boost while crawling. This is what we need here for our survivor. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to see 4 stages out of the door, so that means that No Loops is going to take the second set, the best thing that can happen in a Scrim Night, 1-1. It's all open, the teams are equal, the teams are tied, so yeah, we have to make a decision who's going to come out on top. Before we're going into the third set, I will announce that I'm stepping away for a moment. The first reason is that I don't want to hold the old man speech, but I did wake up at 5. I did drive 2 hours. I had a workshop for 8 hours. I drove back 2 hours. I had 20 minutes until we went live. And I can feel right now that this is really going on my battery. And if I don't take care of this now, then tomorrow I will have a rough time. So yeah, I'll stay around, I will chat, I will hop in if there are very important questions regarding the league, but at least the casting will be taken by Cole, who I managed to drag in last second here as an emergency. So thank you Cole for taking over from here. Maybe I'll join for another set in the future. Maybe we'll try triple casting. Who knows what we are cooking today during the Scrim Night. But yeah, usually I hate stepping away, but today I feel like it's kind of needed. So, Cole, do you already want to say hi?
I mean, I've been talking in Twitch chat for a little bit now, so
okay.
They already know.
Well, thank you, Cole. Take it away.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I think the set we have coming up next is going to be Artist, which was Eunoia's choice. And I'm interested to see how this one pans out, because when we first saw Unknown coming in, the the Artist was the killer that it feels the most like in terms of how you play around the power. The choice of putting them both on wreckers so that you can chain loops to deal with how their power works in an anti-loop context. And so, in theory, if you're good at unknown sets, you should be good at playing out Artist sets, although the Unknown as a killer seems to be a little bit more mechanically complicated, a little bit more fast-paced, more, taxing on your reaction times in a way that Artist is not quite. So I'll be curious to see if this goes the way of no loops as well.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today with Best on Artist on Wrecker's Yard, with Undying Pentiment, the same perks as the last match with the Unknown, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Cole, how do you think this set's gonna go? First impressions?
I don't know if I've actually seen any Artist sets on this. Like I said, I do think this killer is very similar to Unknown. This whole build adaptation of going Ruin, Undying, Penti on Unknown. A lot of killers, honestly. But, Unknown in particular loves this build. A lot of Billies I've seen going it. And it almost works like if the Survivor team is playing sort of properly, they'll just let Ruin stay up because of the threat of Penti. And in theory, the killer player doesn't even need to bring Pentimento just as long as they have the threat of it, But this is a relatively quick down. Normally, we think of Wreckers as a little bit more difficult map for Artists than something like ARP because you have more loops you can chain together. You can't just sit somewhere and hold a choke and camp someone to death. But Best with the Sixth Sense to find Nia in the locker. This is going to be really unfortunate for the survivors, as now they have to rescue 2 survivors, one in the basement, and Ruin is going to be regressing basically all of the progress that they've made so far. So, more or less, 2 free hook stages for Besk in the early game, and this is definitely not what you want to see if you are the survivors of No Loops.
Yeah, definitely. That, Nia did have head on. I did see what she was trying to do there, but it just didn't end up working out. I'm fairly certain that she knew Nia was there from the killer instinct, but I could be wrong. Looks like she's just, patrolling basement, going back down because somebody is clearly unhooking. Setting up Pro at the platform, and that is looking like another down onto Applethos. First gen is done, but it is just not looking too hot for the survivors right now. Civil taking the front hit, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. Hopefully Siren's End can make some distance from basement. Yep.
Yeah, this is going from bad to worse. We now have second stage on to Nia. We have 2 injured survivors making it so that only one person can really go for that save. They do break both the Ruin and the Undying totem, meaning Pentimento is now an option for the Artist, but I feel like she's not really going to need to rely on that because these hook stages are just coming in way too quickly for the gen progress to really matter. Now the survivors are going to have to get people reset if they want to get any kind of save going on. They probably have to just let Applethos die and, pray that when they go into this 3v1, they've at least got some healthy survivors and try and play for, getting 2 or 3 more generators done, because I don't think you can realistically play for outs at this point.
Almost certainly not. Applethos is just going to die in basement, and there's not really much to be done about it. So it's a 3v1 at 4 gens left, and, I would definitely say that against an Artist is an unfavorable position to be in for the survivors at this point in time. Taking Civil to Funbus or I couldn't even finish my thought. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and we're seeing on screen just how punishing Pentimento is as a debuff. A full 30% regression, or not regression, sorry, 30% penalty to the speed at which you complete the generator. I don't know the math off the top of my head as far as how much longer that will make a generator take. I know the math is a little bit weird, but it's going to take these survivors a long time to complete any of these gens, which does afford the Artist player plenty of time to, you know, patrol around that slug, to look for these injured survivors, because they have not taken the time to reset, so both in a very vulnerable position. It's basically impossible to come in for a save if you get caught out. And look at this sort of line of gens. You can send a crow down the middle of the map, and the killer instinct will trigger on like 3 different gens, if not the outright hit, as we see coming onto Banksy, who's just going to hop lock and cleanse that crow immediately. But now Ada is being chased off her gen, which you can hear is high progress. She is going to run to fun bus, but they do not have a good bus here, so this should not be a particularly long chase for her, especially against the zoning power of Artist, but that will buy enough time for the unhook to come in, while Besk just sort of casually chucks an artist over, or sorry, a bird over at the hook. It gets them swarmed while downing Ada. Definitely very experienced on Artist, not simply someone who's, oh, I play M1 killers, sure, I can pick up Artist, what's the worst that could happen? Definitely seeing why Eunoia wanted to pick this set, but now this second generator popping, but knowing it's an injured survivor, sort of cornered, and it will be Sybil who's taking chase. She is zoned sort of edge map here. A crow on this pallet will be a problem for her, but not even needed, as she will go down on this, and now Bess is in a position to simply find that last survivor, find that Claudette. That should have triggered Killer Instinct on her. I'm assuming the Artist will know where Banksy is, and yes, as that visual heartbeat is getting more intense, we should have our last chase relatively quickly.
Yeah, like you said, just in a position to go find Banksy, and boy did they find Banksy. Missing the crows, but that's alright. I'm not sure I see Banksy making it. Well, Balanced might be able to pick up Banksy's teammate. Who knows? But, oh, whiffs the crows. Gets the down shortly after, but that crow, depending on how Jorge runs this, it might have been crucial to hit that crow. Currently swarmed, and that is a down.
Yeah, that shouldn't matter. They're getting real severed hands value on that. I believe that the slug survivor immediately got swarmed as soon as they got picked up, because when they were picked up, the healthy survivor, or the injured survivor rather, had crows on them. So simply having to start your chase injured and swarmed already is not a great position to be in, and that will be a 4K3 coming in for Besk. And I'm sorry, but playing for a 4K4 if you're the next killer is not what you want to see. I see Obnoxious Brownie in chat, the resident Artist lover, who's going to be very happy with this result. And looking forward to the next game of this set, as, yeah, that's one of those my survivor team through moments if you're having to play for a 4K4.
Yeah, a little bit. I do have to agree with you on that. But, just really solid play by Besk here, and I feel like I've said all I really can say. Like, you know, on point with those cross-map crows to check for people on hit with the crows hitting in chase, as well as also setting up cross-map ones in the middle of chase, just unrelated from the chase. That is the telltale sign of an artist who knows what they're doing, to me.
Oh yeah. If I can be a hater for a second, I'm really hoping that Penamento is gonna get banned for the next season, because this perk, bro. This perk, I just can't.
There is a funny one. I mean,
I do think if that perk weren't in play, the survivors probably would have popped this gen on the hill as well. And 4K2 is still not a win con you want to play for, but you know, and the fact that anytime you're going into these matches against something that's not an S tier, you see the Ruin, you see the Undying, you're like, well, Killer probably has Penti, you know, and it puts you in what feels like a lose-lose situation. So a little bit rough, but we will be looking forward to the second game of this set when No Loops gets their shot at playing Killer, so stick with us for that. Alright folks, we're going to have a run back of Artist here. This time it will be Jorge playing Artist for Team No Loops, looking to get a second win on this Wrecker's Yard map. This time I believe he has spawned on the opposite side of the map from where the previous killer did. and he's not finding survivors as quickly, but there will be a bird coming into a survivor that I think was trying to cleanse one of his hexes. So we will have what appears to be our first chase starting relatively quickly, but Jorge has his work cut out for him. In the previous game, it was a 4K3, so he's going to need to kill the survivors without giving over more than one gen, which is, you know, good luck on that. Now, he is going to have some cheeky little aura reading on Renato on this crane loop because of Undying. We don't normally see a whole lot of aura reading in comp games because these perks and add-ons are pretty heavily restricted, but, you know, Renato kind of catching a stray on that one, but he will be able to cleanse his birds before an injury comes in, and he will return to this loop. He does have a pretty good pallet here, and the birds are not quite being set up to fully zone him. He will get swarmed but not injured, but he will greed the pallet and take a hit for it. But now he's not zoned to the corner of the map, which will allow him to go wherever he wants, but he is opting to go in and out of the locker instead as one gen pops, and now his team really only needs another one in order to win the match. So Renato buying as much time as he needs.
Yeah, I mean, hey, running someone for a full generator is always worth it. Well, not always, but you know. Same build as last game, and like you said, spawned a different part of the map. Wasn't as fast at finding someone, but did get a down pretty fast still. Although, as you said, one generator has already been completed, and the win condition is rough for that to happen so early. I'm not so sure. Yeah, like, isn't this already only a tie at best?
Yeah, it's a tie at minimum, and the really... Like, one of the things that can make these difficult win cons sort of even more punishing is the fact that the other team knows, so they can afford to go for plays that they might not normally go for because they know that it can't backfire, right? If you're in the first set, it's like, well, okay, if we greed and we get punished for it, we could get 4K2'd in the next game or something. But if you know, like, oh, we just pop the second gen and we can do whatever we want, it opens up plays that you would never normally go for because it would be operating on the assumption of a, you know, a much worse win con. And so the survivors, I'm pretty sure they doubled that first gen, for example, which I don't think they would have done in a normal artist set, but it guaranteed, well, okay, we're getting halfway to our win con on the first chase guaranteed. Now we just need to get one more gen at some point. And it paid out for them. But even in this situation, they're still in a better spot than No Loops was in the previous game, having a much longer first chase, not having someone grab out of a locker right after, not having basement hooks. It makes it really easy for the survivors to simply run to the edge of the map while their team cranks out gens. Pretty straightforward macro play, and even if the chases don't end up going that great, which so far they actually are, they're in a really good spot. This is a situation where the survivors would have to giga throw in order to not win.
Yeah, it is looking... Ace coming in for the body, for the prot hit here, but I'm not... Yeah, like, just gonna get hit by the M2 and then down Steve with the M1. Sorry, that was Renato, not Steve. I always feel like this... I always felt like that palette against an artist is just the worst thing as Survivor, because it's so long, and that's the win con, Matt.
Yeah, I think from a killer POV there, it feels bad, but I'm pretty sure you don't have much choice but to slug. Even if you have 2 downs, you just don't have the time. If you're already at Tycon, you pretty much would have to just try and get a 4-man slug in order to win, but that obviously is not a play that is going to work out in most cases. So you'll see some games like this where it feels like the killer gets a really bad result because they have such a miserable win con, and the only way they can meet that is by playing super greedy, and 9 times out of 10, if not more, it just backfires and you get an even worse result, but it's the only winning play that you have. So Jorge, I think, really struggling here. He will be honestly looking to get a pretty respectable result nonetheless. It's just not quite good enough to meet the win con that his survivors left him.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being unable to live up to extraordinarily high expectations, which, yeah, that happens a lot, but Jorge can at least do their best here and get some practice in, if nothing else. But these survivors are playing smart and very well. I do think that is the main reason they are winning, because I know I say it a lot, but like you said, doubling up on that gen is something you would not normally do against an artist, but when it's smart, you have to be able to identify when it is and isn't smart for situations like this, and it pays off.
Yeah, this is quite connect. No, he will not be the down onto Renato here, as we're down to 1 gen remaining. Renato getting a little bit stuck. It will not matter. This is honestly a pretty strong setup for him. He's got 2 drop pallets with a connected window and another, pallet that has not been placed yet. Applying the check spots on this auto haven tile should be enough to get him where he needs to go, but getting past a little bit, I think that could have been an M1, but instead the artist is going to drop some crows on the loop. Renato has his dispel, or his repel rather, reset. A nice little dodge on that, and now a body block coming in. Now the severed hands will also cause Claudette to be swarmed while trying to body block for Renato. So this should be an injury onto her, but she is able to get, I don't know if this is a spectator bug or not, but the artist will return to the chase onto Renato instead.
Yeah, and getting the down on Renato there, I believe that is the kill. Yeah, definitely. 1 gen left. Just kind of shooting crows at them, which, Oh, wow, I was expecting one to be almost done, but not that almost done. Seeing on this exact same Dole Totem getting mad on dying value this game, by the way, I have to say, most undying value I've seen in Comp Dead by, and well, at least the aura reading part in months. Just gonna hop in the locker, forced to pick up. I believe Jorge is also on Death Hook, yes?
I believe so. That's why he would have been taking aggro for the Steve anyway. They didn't know if Jorge had brought Noed. I mean, I guess it would not make much sense. I don't know if we're requiring the teams to pre-submit builds for community nights, but if Jorge did have that perk, then it would have been bad news bears to give over 3 stages instead of 1. But I believe this would be a 7-stage game then, and that's actually, I think, about expected for artists. Maybe a little bit less for this map, but yeah, just having a difficult win con to meet. Now, this was the set that Eunoia wanted, so this should be a set they expect to win. So now, No Loops will have an opportunity to try and take their second set win going into that final set, but it will be Deathslinger coming up next, which should be a little bit of a change of scenery on Suffocation Pit 1. Do we have any expectations for that, Joe?
Honestly, not really. With Deathslinger, you never know. I kind of that can go so far in either direction. No, I don't think I can predict anything.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen a whole lot of Deathslinger in the regular season so far. I remember one of our sort of like highlight moments was, I want to say it was Tremor versus someone else. I don't remember who they were playing against, but it was Tremor Survivors, and there was a play where the Deathslinger, I think it was Calamity actually, I think it was Calamity Slinger, was carrying someone, and they ended up basically popping a generator in his face while he was carrying a survivor on their back. I think that's the only play I really remember from Slinger games this season. I know that Suffo Pit is sort of the standard map for him, and it's another one of those killers where you're trying not to get zoned, but you're basically just playing out macro. You ideally, once your survivor gets unhooked, you just have them run to the other side of the map. Hopefully you pop a gen or 2 on that side in advance, so that the killer then has to decide, oh, well, am I going to defend my hook? Am I going to defend my gens? And as long as they're on different sides of the map, it's really rough for a killer that's as slow as Deathslinger is. So we'll have to see how these teams will play that set out.
Yeah, definitely. I just never know what to say about a Deathslinger game in advance, because unless I specifically know how the killers are on Deathslinger and how well the survivors know how to play against him, it's kind of a total crapshoot for how well the Deathslinger will do. I very rarely see a Deathslinger do just okay. I usually see him either get ravaged or ravage others.
Yeah, it's definitely a killer also where you need to put some time into its mechanics if you want to do well with it. And so I think that it is a good sign for the team that picks it if they're comfortable having it, because you can't just take whoever your regular killer player is, slap them on Slinger, and just pray that regular M1 mechanics will be good enough. But I do think, on the other hand, it's from what I've seen so far, it feels like the survivors of Eunoia are a little bit more clean. Their chases are a little bit, better. They're not making sloppy mistakes as much, and that's the kind of thing that Deathslinger will really prey upon. So even if maybe Eunoia doesn't have a confident Slinger player, they still might have the ability to play around it just off of survivor mechanics, especially utilizing like the setups that you can have in the middle of the map on Suffocation Pit, how strong the main building can be, and of course there's the whole aspect of what kind of gen RNG do you get? Hey, maybe one team's going to get a topside 5 gen. Maybe the other team gets a 3-1-3. You never know. So definitely a bit of a toss-up.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. And Suffocation Pit's one of those maps with... There's definitely a lot of line of sight breaks, but it's also... What's the word? It's not one of those maps where it's the end of the world if they break sight as Deathslinger, because you can probably get to them again relatively quickly. The issue is more the amount of 90-degree corner turns you can make on that map, especially in the center of it. Yeah, like I said, I think this can definitely go either way.
I also noticed that one of the sort of major balancing changes that we made coming into this season was the removal of pain resonance from most killers. It's now banned against tier 2 and tier 3 killers. Previously it was just tier 1s. And so on any killer that you're playing on a split map, if the game plan is going to be for the survivor team, pop a gen on the other side of the map from where the first down happens, pain resonance can be used to kind of slow down that first gen pop so that they can't get that accomplished. But that's not in the picture anymore. Now we're going to see Jorge bringing in agitation and pop. So he's going to have a little bit more leverage in deciding where he wants to get his hooks. Ideally, yeah, you do want to drag people deeper into the side of the map you're defending. But, he needs to be physically present in order to influence anything because of the balance changes. He does, I believe, see a couple survivors running around his side of the map. He's already crossed over here, but Chase starting onto Nia first. She goes for a shot through the wall, but does not happen as the head-on to start the game and the reload. He's going for some really crazy shots. They're just not quite panning out. Now, we did see Jorge is apparently a P100 Deathslinger, so definitely put a lot of time into this killer, as he's going to go ahead and leave that area of the map and go over to his uncorrupted gens. It does appear that at least on this side of the map, he's only got 3. I don't know if he's got a topside 3-gen or 4-gen, but he has found Steve trying to work on a gen near Shack. Will start Chase near the Shack, but I don't think I hear Chase actually started yet. Remains to be seen if that's a spectator bug or what.
Oh. Yeah, like you said, Jorge definitely going for these ambitious shots. I always respect it, even if you whiff every last one. It's the thought that counts, But I'm sure Jorge will hit some. No offense to them, of course. Barely whiffing on Ochi there. I've always found Shaq to be dreadful to run a Deathslinger. There goes our first hit in the game. Just because of all the little spots in the wall you can shoot through, because you can shoot through basically almost any of them. Whiffing the second shot to potentially down Ochi, and it looks like they are going to continue chasing Ochi. Will they land the shot though? That's the question. No, dropping the pallet immediately after barely dodging that. Jorge is definitely spending a lot of time chasing Ochi here, and I have to imagine these survivors are currently taking full advantage of that, finally landing the shot over the pallet. Does the M1 happen? No. Oh, wow.
Doesn't quite read, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I think Jorge is just going for too many, like, flashy shots, too many impatient shots, not really using the power of this killer to simply zone survivors and put them in the lose-lose situations like you kind of would want to do, and the fact that it's missing is just punished super hard. I do want to point out, I'm pretty sure on the current patch, so normally, yes, like, that back window on the shack, you would be able to shoot through that. I'm pretty sure on the current patch there's a bug where Slinger cannot shoot through that hole on Macmillan's shack in particular. There's one map, it's either Macmillan or Autohaven, and I don't remember which one it is, but I'm pretty sure it's Mac, and we were seeing the shot, like, colliding into the wall as if it was just a solid surface. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but this first hook coming in with 2 gens top, there is still 3 on this side of the map with Steve, so Jorge is able to kind of hold this choke and sort of threaten the survivors. They have another gen on the opposite side of the map, which is basically a freebie, but still having a 3 gen to defend at least is a good sign, but Slinger isn't a killer that is particularly good at snowballing off of survivor mistakes. No matter what happens, you still have to reload your power, so you're not able to chew through health states as quickly as a lot of other killers would, and it's one of the major weaknesses of this killer when compared to other strong chase killers. And so now, like, yeah, you get the down onto Renato, but because you had to reload, Steve is able to just go all the way down to the shack side of the map, where all the gens are done. And now, okay, if you down Steve here and you hook him, what exactly are you going to get out of this? Because you do have to just return to the side of the map anyway. So I feel like the play here would have been to just pick Renato instantly and drag him deeper into your 3 gen. But Jorge committing to the tunnel out here, I think he's going to get the second hook onto Steve. But we know there's at least 2 survivors on the other side of the map, and he's probably going to lose a lot of his pressure there. Yeah, it looks like they're going to be able... Oh, no, that's this side of the map still. So this is not Nia breaking the 3 gen, but she will be in position to save Steve once again. But the other survivors, they're doubling on top side of the map. Renato got picked up by Claude, and they're doubling a gen. And by the time Deathslinger gets there, they might very well pop that. And if they haven't, he's got a pop of his own.
Yeah. And let's see if... Okay, getting the pop onto the gen just barely before it finishes, thankfully. Well, the gen that they are trying to work on is not exactly the closest thing to the hook. Getting the unhook there, let's see what comes of it. It looks like Jorge is just going to take the survivor to Shack, and... Oh.
Yeah, I don't think you can make that shot.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, it's so strange that it's... Yeah. Huh.
Like, if you look at the animation, it looks like the actual projectile is colliding with the wall, and you're not getting that sort of, like, the orange chain going through it.
There's the adrenaline.
Yeah, so you end up tunneling out basically the worst possible serve in this situation, and again, not only losing the gens for it, but I think also at this point in the game, because your chases are being rather long, your tunnel out's taking too long, I do think there's a point where you're better off also from a win con perspective just going for freshes if you know, okay, I'm not going to be able to protect all my gens. Especially here also, the fact that both gates were on the side of the map, so we're going to see a 3-stage game. Steve will be fully tunneled out, but his teammates will pop every gen and the gate for it, and they will just leave him to die. But definitely for the killer player of Eunoia, knowing that they really only need 4 stages. Honestly, they might very well bring Noed, Rancor, like just full send it, because the win con is just so simple to meet.
Yeah, even getting more than 1 fresh hook would do them wonders, so as if they get 2 hooks early on in this next game, it might not be looking good for them basically immediately. But, you know, as always, we'll see.
Yep, so we will be going to a short break before the second game of this set appears, so please stay tuned for that, and I'll be with y'all in chat.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here again with another Deathslinger match on the Suffocation Pit, with Besk on Deathslinger this time. And I do have to say, last match, Jorge was going for quite the amount of shots that missed, and a lot of them were ambitious. Some of them, as you said, you can't shoot out the back window of Killer Shack on Macmillan at the moment for some reason because they broke something. So here's hoping Besk doesn't have to deal with that as much this game. But I do have to say that it is... Besk definitely has quite the relaxed win condition this match. What do you think about that, Cole?
Oh yeah, I mean, I respect the build here as well. You know, I do think the Ruin is like the next best thing if you're trying to pressure gens from cross map without, you know, pain resonance. But also the fact that he's going for forced hesitation, which will mean that he's able to punish survivors off the unhook much more effectively. For example, in the last game we saw, I believe it was Renato 1-for-1ing for Steve, and Renato was able to take the down, but Steve got cross map distance. If forced hesitation was in play there, Steve would have been so heavily slowed, I don't think he would have been able to make it that far. And of course we have this endgame perk in Noed, meaning that even if Besk gets absolutely nothing done through the entire game, he still has the chance to just one-tap someone with Noed, hook them, and then, you know, at least meet tie off of that. We're going to have 2 generators completed in short order here, but it will matter which... Actually, the thing is, because your win con is only 4 stages, you don't even need to play for gens. You can just, at this point, just go full send it for chases, and you've got Ania in your face here as well, giving you a tag, so... I would like to point out also, like, we see... One of the unfortunate realities of some killers in comp is that they end up being a lot less fun than you would expect, because, okay, sure, it's mechanically skill expressive, you can go for some, you know, crazy plays, but unfortunately what ends up being the most consistent way to play them is really boring. You know, Slinger trying to zone people and then, you know, use your power for zone as well. Not nearly as fun as what I think Jorge was going for previously, and, you know, I respect the vision. Besk having a little bit of an easier time here, and he does also have what appears to be a pretty good gen spread as well, but not needing to play for the defense. He's got a sense that there's someone over here, but they're not immediately visible. He can, at this point, just sit here in this middle of the map and see if anyone's going to go for that unhook, and because if they don't, and Sheva dies on that hill, or actually not Sheva, if Nia dies on that hill, that's enough for win condition, so they somehow have to rescue her without trading for it, while also completing 3 generators, and, you know, unless Besk decides to have a 0% accuracy arc, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it would kind of take a miracle for that to happen. Ada drops the pallet. Just gonna let the chain break, looks like, because Besk is using that cigar. Going back to the hook, doesn't look like anyone's trying to go for the unhook yet. But like you said, if they leave applesauce on there, they just lose. So, I.
Actually, that would be WinCon now, because it's 2 freshes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just realized that.
Yeah, you're right. So it is.
Now, I do believe, so this will be, this would be Eunoia taking a 3-1 at this point, but as far as I understand, the teams have agreed to play out all 5 sets regardless of the outcome. So after this Slinger set is finished up, we would be going on to a Wraith set as the final of this match. So we have that to look forward to as the 3rd generator pops and the 4th generator pops, and this team has just decided to let Nia die on that hill. And keep in mind, the Slinger does still have Noed in his back pocket, so that even if this last gen pops, and I would point out, there is a gen spread here which is not super defensible, 1 gen on each side of the map, 1 more towards the middle, meaning the survivors should be in a position to pop the last generator if that is their play. Good progress on this middle 1-2, but probably not a gen that they're going to want to commit to. They'd rather split the opposite gens. So now we'll have to see where Besk decides to hook Ada. He'll have an easier time defending that gen, of course, but he will look for something that's a little bit towards the middle of the map, and it will now matter how Sheva and Claude are positioned. We do see sparks on this generator near Shack, so it's being operated. We see both survivors are here, so right now Besk is basically regressing all generator progress to 0 with Ruin, because both survivors are here. They are not split. That will be the tag now onto Banksy, named, I believe, as an homage to a graffiti artist from a number of years ago. That's a bit of a throwback.
Yeah, definitely. It is a throwback. So I suppose my current question is, what generators are they working on? Because this is quite the miserable 3-gen for the killer. So I feel like they can really do any of these gens, except this one. Obviously, you can keep pressure on this one from the hook. But, you know, if you pressure that and another gen, you can definitely just get out. But the problem being, of course, that Jorge is on hook, so there's only 2 survivors out doing things at the moment. Finding Sheva, going to go for the M1, around the water tower to the... Oh, are they gonna go for a trade here? No.
Appears not. Yeah, the unfortunate part is we saw both survivors really committing to this gen by Shack, but it's also the one generator that's relatively easy for the Slinger to patrol with this hook. They do have another gen on the main building side of the map, which they could work, and he wouldn't be able to pressure them without completely getting the unhook for free. But with a really nasty shot onto Sheva now, Claudette being injured as well is not able to go for the save or the pickup, and she's just working this gen injured, and the Slinger sees her. Yeah, I really think this is a pretty big mistake to try and insist on popping this gen instead of having like Sheva cross to the other side of the map when they first got chased off of it. But obviously it doesn't matter. WinCon was met a long time ago. But I think Beth's getting a little bit disoriented as to where, or actually an advanced mind game, trying to make Claudette second guess where he is by going down to the basement. But if her check spots are good, she should not get caught off guard. Her check spots didn't hold up, but neither did Beth's aim. So he's going for a repeat, actual Mad Lad. We'll have to see if this one pays off again. I think maybe Claudette has learned her lesson. We do hear her cries of pain, making it a little bit easier for Beth to go for this. Well, that could have been a shot there as well. She doesn't really make anything here. This is the kind of zoning power the Slinger has. And Claudette just not able to commit to any action because she would have been shot. And yeah, good, consistent, albeit, you know, a little bit boring Slinger play, but it gets the job done, and that is what we like to see. So that will be the third set being, or the fourth set of the game being concluded, with the third set going for Eunoia, with no loops having taken Unknown previously. So we will be moving on to Wraith as the final set of the evening.
Yes, we will, and boy do I love me some competitive Wraith gameplay. I do have to say that the basement stairs mind game was pretty good. I don't think I've ever seen that before on any character.
If you're a fan of that mind game, I'd recommend go back and watch. It was the spirit set between Eternal and Sinners, and when Zaka played Spirit, he had a mind game where he phased down the basement stairs to mind game a survivor into basically vaulting the shack pallet into him because they heard like the phasing noise and thought he was wrapping around from the outside of shack.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most unhinged things I've ever seen work. Just straight up.
Yeah, Spirit plays. You know, if you play Spirit, you kind of know at least a few unhinged maneuvers to pull out of your back pocket when necessary. But I believe I forgot what I was gonna say. But next set will be Wraith, and so Cole, do you have any ideas on how you think that's going to go?
I mean, I feel like Wraith is one of these sets that teams have really improved on a lot. So I remember watching like in season 8 when I first started getting into comp DBD, and I noticed that Wraith was one of these sets that was a really consistent 4K1, 4K2 if there was a major mistake on the survivor side. And I kept being told by good players that like, well, Wraith should be outs, but I was never actually seeing it happen. And it feels like more recently teams have been getting outs against Wraith more consistently. It's not that guaranteed 4K1 or better that we've been expecting. That position is now more of like a Dredge Ghostface thing where you're like, all right, we're going to get a 4K1, right? But I feel like Wraith has definitely got some room for skill expression. I think also this should be a very heavily Eunoia favored set because Wraith is a very straightforward killer. I would expect both teams should have killers that play Wraith, but it's a set that's a pretty big test of your mechanics on both sides. Even though we tend to think of Wraith as like, oh, it's this hit and run kind of stealth killer, a lot of Wraith DDS does boil down to your chase mechanics where that's what you're actually testing. And we've seen the survivors of Eunoia, I think, play their chases quite a bit better than the survivors of No Loops. So I think this should be favored for them. But it's also a set where I feel like we've seen a lot more room for build decisions from the Wraith's part. Like, we know that every Wraith is going to go Swift Hunt Shadow Dance, but we've seen Wraith players mix things up as far as, you know, are they going to bring BAM or not? Are they going to bring Sloppy or not? How many Gen Kick perks are they going to go? We've seen this rise of players bringing Ruin Penteon killers, and Wraith certainly can go that route. So you never know what the Wraith is going to opt in for in that regard.
Yeah, it's definitely a character, like you said, a character with a lot of skill expression for your, you know, the nuances of chase, especially around like small tiles with a palette. It's, what's the wording? I find that it is often one of the places in this game that I can most often express my skill is against a Wraith in a chase. Right? Like, I feel survivors have a lot of chances to outplay and outsmart that killer, but the killer has just as many chances to do that to the survivors in a chase, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think any killer that gets put on DDS, it feels like it's very easy to have a variety of different 3-gen setups. And what seems to happen quite a bit in any DDS set, whether it's Wraith or Singularity or Cenobite, the outcome of the match is really determined by how quickly that first tunnel out comes in, because you end up getting into a situation where the survivors just don't have the resources to make their chases last. And a killer like Wraith has the option, especially if they're bringing Sloppy, once you're down to a 3v1, to just play to get everyone injured. and then snowball your pressure from there. Go for slugs, stop the survivors from getting off gens, and in that war of attrition, you eventually will catch a survivor being out of position, and get that second slug, and then it's so difficult to recover from that. The map is small enough, and Wraith has enough mobility that it's relatively easy to catch a survivor's resetting off guard, and undo all that progress and close out the game. So definitely very, very important for these survivors to cover for their teammate and make sure that if there's going to be a tunnel out, it doesn't happen until they're able to get a lot of gen pressure, or otherwise it will be curtains.
Yeah, and splitting gen pressure, especially on such a small map against Wraith, is just so important, because I see a lot of Wraith players, not necessarily in DBDLeague, but just like in general, they'll play hit and run, and they'll tag you, go try to find someone else, but a lot of them just don't check generators that much, and that's like the main reason I see a lot of Wraiths not do that well, because yeah, you move really fast, but they're not using it properly. Whenever I see a good Wraith, it's genuinely horrifying.
Yeah, we complained a little bit about how, Slinger in comp is a lot more boring than what you'd expect from pubs, but I feel like Wraith is kind of the inverse, because you're specifically incentivized to play Wraith in the way that's actually fun with this killer, and not just going for the most boring play style. So kind of a silver lining there. So we do have our Ada being caught out a little bit. She will be taking first chase, and unfortunate for her, does not have any pallet RNG here, so there will be a tag onto her before she can reach Shack for some safety. And interesting pathing here. It looks like we are staying at Shack a little bit. Yeah, again, the positioning being a little bit unfortunate. You normally would want to make sure that until you've got eyes on where the Wraith is, you want to stick somewhere that you have safety, but Ada just getting caught out of position and then sort of running to an unsafe pallet instead of all of the resources that she has sort of behind Gallows. The drop down coming in for Nia, keeping in mind this is a low tier killer, so no exhaustions, no balanced even for the Nia, and Best sort of making sure that there's no one around to save this Ada on the pallet, as it's the only real play they might have set up here. The survivors haven't really had a whole lot of time to get out of this area where they spawned, and we will have Alan also being pushed off the Gallows. Should be a tag onto him.
I might just be crazy, but I feel like they could have dropped that pallet. But I'm not the one actually playing, so... finding two survivors, the Alan and the Nia, just gonna go on Applesauce here. Does not drop the pallet, as she shouldn't. Looks like we are running to main. Just sounds like somebody's working on it, so just gonna ideally hit them at minimum, force them off, There is a Banksy there. Very good body block on the window, so she can't vault it. Going toward the back, just gonna run Dead Dog. I imagine Besk... Alright, just vaults the window. Huh. I was expecting them to break that wall.
Yeah, BDS main is not actually safe against a good Wraith between Bam and Swift Hunt and Shadow Dance.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I've been a caster cursed in reverse a little bit, because we have Besk actually going for that hit and run playstyle, and this is now more a test of the survivors' coordination and comms more than their mechanics. He is able to get away with this because the chases and the hits have been coming in a lot quicker than they probably should, but Alan here being caught kind of greeting a generator is very likely going to be punished for it, as with everyone being... Okay, there is now the reset onto Claudette, so Besk is going to know that he's going to have Claudette and Ada resetting in some corner of the map, so getting auto-aimed on that pallet. The stun comes in, the blind does not come in. Besk is just going to play to zone Alan, but now two resets coming in, so he does have the freedom to go for this chase because he knows there's no generator progress to speak of, and now we're back to the chase mechanics of these survivors. That is not going to be a hit just yet, but this pallet is not super safe. A couple 50-50s can be played here. Besk now opting to just go to cloak, Shadow Dance, keep this pallet, and see if Alan will be able to make anything, but he should not be able to, and there should be the down onto him, as Nia has now been picked up. But for all of this that's been happening, there's been no generator progress. Some pallets have been kicked. And Besk will now... Actually, there is a generator that's going to be completed on the street. I stand corrected. Banksy getting the first gen of the game done. Still a little bit on Gallows, and this would have been a moment where having Ruin would have come in so clutch.
Yeah, definitely, but seems like the only regression perk that Besk has is Pain Res, so getting it off there. Looking for this... Who was that? Claudette? Claudette, yes. Just decides to leave main, go check other generators. Kind of in... I would say Besk is currently in a pretty good position. Oh. I was expecting that to hit, honestly. But as I was saying, it looks like Besk is in quite the good position. Gonna run back to Hook, see if anyone is trying to unhook yet. Looks like Epitaph has been unhooked, and Besk does not care about this Claudette. They only want this Alan, which, you know, tunnel out whoever first. Getting hit with the Endurance, and definitely looks like Besk is going to continue tunneling. Going toward town part of Dead Dog. This vault is, yeah. I was gonna say that vault is not exactly, good to play against Wraith, like, at all.
So this chase has bought them a decent amount of gen progress, and crucially they have popped Gallows, so not a whole lot for them to work with as far as gen setups. So this is a really good recovery from the survivors of No Loops, as Besk sort of staring into the sky. I'm not quite sure why. He will go ahead and pre-bam the back window of main, so the survivors should be able to see that he did that if they're posted up at these windows. We'll go ahead and kick the generator at main, as a third generator has been completed, and the sort of the greed to go for chain slugs kind of backfiring in the early game, not quite getting the pressure that he wanted, because Alan was able to delay the chases so long, really coming in super clutch. But now this will be a third chase onto him, trying to get the tunnel out, but Alan has all of Shaq to work with. He also has this area behind Gallows, but he is caught off guard, does not see the Wraith wrapping around with the double vault, and this should be the down and the kill onto Epitaph, as we will be entering into the 3v1, but crucially, all three survivors that are left are healthy. They've broken all of the gen spread, and they do have at least one part of the map where they have a lot of resources to work with that isn't main, whose generator is also high progress. So I would say the survivors have done a very good job of recovering from this early game, and they're in a great spot going into this mid and late game.
They definitely are. Finding Applesauce here, gonna run him at Shaq. Oh, yeah, that was a bit of an ambitious swing, but I respect it. Looks like we are staying at Shaq. Applesauce going to use the pallet correctly. Okay, good. Main gen has been completed. That leaves them at one gen left, and like you said, the spread is just not good for the killer here, even if it is Wraith. Taking him to the same vault that Alan got owned at, and there goes Applesauce.
Yeah,
clean grab.
I mean, I feel like that window is at least a little bit safe, because if you're going to uncloak swing from around the other side, you can't actually reach the window. So with a little bit more patience, I think Nia would have been able to delay that, but that will also be the second pain res coming in. Claudette taking chase. This is still a fine situation. Besk has to double check on this gen. We had seen a good amount of progress on it earlier, so now he's going to know which two gens are being pressured. And the decision now for Claudette is going to be, does she stick her gen or does she go for this unhook, as Ada's going to take a tag. Claudette has rescued Nia, and Ada is being chased towards the other gen that was being progressed. She has a pallet here, but Besk will take ownership of the pallet, which means Ada has to leave. She greets the window vault, and this might be a tag for Besk. He actually decides to double back on the window. I think he could have actually gotten a hit if he just committed to that. But now Ada has to play the wagon pallet because the shack pallet is dropped and the window is bammed. She'll go ahead and fully drop it, and she's zoned back to some more unsafe pallets, but really crucially, she's not able to get distance away from these two generators that her and Claudette were working. The window has been unbammed, and she makes it in time. Best, I think, again, could have hit that if he swung for it. But he does not, and now Ada being chased back to her gen. This should be Claudette and Nia getting onto Claudette's gen and doubling it now that Nia is healed, but Best will decide to go ahead and leave that chase. It's not worth the investment. This gen is super close. Nia is not on it, so she's probably working the third gen, and Best needs to get a good chase here ASAP.
Oh. Yeah, definitely. Speaking of which, finding Banksy, immediately getting the hit. Gonna go ahead and kick that gen and just kind of patrol the two gens. Probably the correct thing to do at this point in time because, as you said... Oh my... Wow, I didn't even notice that one. But, as you said, Besk has to get a pretty good chase going here. And will it happen at Shack? Let's find out. Claudette, not managing to vault the window again because of bamboozle, and slow vaulting over the pallet is 50-50. Oh, and Besky has whiffed, but yeah, kind of high visibility there. It's kind of hard to do 50-50 with the killer on that path.
Yeah, it seems almost like a little bit of nerves. I mean, we've seen that he's played some of his other killers very mechanically well. But yeah, missing a couple hits is a little rough. The survivors did make a really good recovery. They had a rough early game, and this is definitely going to be a good learning experience for both of these teams as far as this set, which is a staple of comp. I know it's something that a lot of teams practice a lot. And so, yeah, definitely something to look forward from these teams going forward. But this will be, I believe, 7 stages. Oh, in the end, I don't think Claudette was hooked before, so should be 7 once she is found.
Yeah.
And that's an okay result. Like I said, I don't think this set should be a 4K if the survivors play it well. And apart from that early game pickup, they did. So we will find that pickup and get exact confirmation on what our win con is.
Final hook going up. I feel like this match was just a very solid performance from both teams. Getting 2K and 2 out is nothing to scoff at on either side, really. Especially with how well they were running Besky at Killer Shack for what felt like most of the game. I don't know if it actually was, but it felt like most of the action that was happening that game was at or near Shack.
Yeah, I think with a little bit more commitment, those chases would have been shorter. This is also a game where we see the value of bringing like Ruin into the game, because with the way that early game panned out, that would have been so much Ruin value in the early game. But with this particular build, you really want to get your pain resonances in early, and then your ability to play hit and run with that sloppy is more of a thing that you lean into once you have the 3v1, but sort of delaying that early on was not quite working out the way that Besk would have hoped for. So we'll be seeing going into the final game of this match, which will be No Loops playing Wraith against Eunoia's survivors, seeing if they can get more than that 7-stage win con. So please stay tuned for that. Welcome back, everyone. This will be the final game of Eunoia versus No Loops. Closing out this Wraith set, we have an 8-stage win condition. First chase onto Papa real quick. This actually should be not a tag onto him. The mind game not quite working. He will breathe this pallet. Jorge gonna go ahead and try and get the tag on him. The stun will come in. Now Ace is zoned to the corner of the map, and with the Shadow Dance kicking speed, we will be chewing through these pallets very quickly. Jorge trying to body block Ace. Not quite going to work. Papa going for the correct play here. Simply leaving the loop when the Wraith tries to mind game it. But this now if he's not able to body block, and he won't be ace with a counter body block, this is a technique that you see a lot in Wraith 1v1s. You basically body block the Wraith himself so that he can't get ahead of you and body block you from the resource. Now Jorge desperately trying to block that window, but instead will break chase, kick the gen, and try and chase Nia instead, but she has gotten enough distance to make it to the town. She will fake out this vault. Bam comes in on that too, but now she's able to make the water tower pallet, and once again, the Shadow Dance kick comes in, but she's not zoned to the edge of the map, so she should be able to get distance where she wants to be. Now Sponge taking chase, Jorge simply not quite committing to any survivors, but he will be able to claim ownership of this shack pallet, and that will secure his first hit of the game onto Sponge, who now is able to take distance to town once again, where there are still resources, and surely these gens are being cranked, and now that's going to be a pallet stun in Cloak, which is a very punishing stun duration.
It most definitely is, and this is also where 2 out of 3 of the corrupt intervention gens are, so he is being taken away from places that actually matter to these survivors. Finding Fabra here, gonna take him to this pallet. We saw last game that this pallet is a bit rough for survivors, but at this time Fabra is healthy, cutting off to another generator, not generator, pallet, dropping it and moving on again, getting hit at the wagon, and it looks like Fabra is running to... Is there another... Yeah, there's a pallet there. Tent pallet, and... Oh, that was a good fake on Jorge's part. I don't know if Fabra has anything to run to here at all. Yeah, just going to the comp corner. And that looks like a down. At 4 gens left, not bad.
4 gens left, but surely there's going to be 1 or 2 more that are well on the way. We were at 4 gens a little bit ago. That's that second gen popping. Painrez not coming in on this hook, so there will be a 3rd generator popping for it. And once again, this is a destruction of all of the possible gen spreads realistically. These are not super defensible gens, although they are not as bad as they could be on this map. The unhook comes in. Jorge going to go right back to it to try and tunnel out Nia. He does not really have the luxury of playing for freshes here. He definitely needs to get Nia out of the game to try and go for win con, but Claudette comes in for the body block. They do have a shack pallet to play, and once again, Claudette getting that stun onto him in Cloak will buy Nia so much distance. She makes her way to main, and also with 2 healthy survivors, she will have plenty of help on these body blocks if need be. She now has the main building pallet to play, and she's just going to hold W and make it to town. That is what we start to see survivors doing. Nia actually just going for a lot of greed on these windows and pallets. Jorge getting a little bit stuck on this will allow Nia to get her vaults in this sort of pseudo TL wall, but it now remains if she has a pallet to play here, and she does. See, this is where the mechanics check just comes in between kill and survivor, and Nia will be punished for it. Down on this pallet, not quite able to die on the pallet itself, so no pallet save to come in, but that has allowed her to get far away from the remaining gens, and 4th gen pops as the pain res not quite in time to block that.
Yeah, and I mean, at least Jorge has pop now, but like you said, the spread is kind of not exactly defendable. At least, like, these 2 you can probably patrol together, but the 3rd one is way off, so it's not looking too amazing for Jorge at the moment. Going to get a clean hit on Sponge, and looks like, yeah, just gonna continue going for Sponge. Never mind, I lied. Instead going to go for this Nia? No, Renato. Oh, never mind. Ignoring the healthy Renato and going for the injured people. Never mind. Going for the healthy Nia. Going to vault that. With Bamboozle, this becomes a... Oh, yeah, especially if Jorge blocks that window. Going to get a clean hit because of Bamboozle on Dead Dog. And will they continue running around Dead Dog? It doesn't seem like Fabra has much to run to here, so yes. Going to the front porch. Oh my goodness, the head-on. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe a lot of the players on Eunoia are ladder players, so this whole Wraith DDS chase thing is something they are very practiced on, or should be. We're seeing just a lot of very good decisions in chase, and the mechanics check here is definitely going in their favor. But also, the body blocks are really helping out. The teamwork is there as well. This is not just a pure hands check. They are playing the macro game very cleanly as well. And that is the last gener popping with what will be only 2 stages left on Nia. So really just not able to get enough hook stages to meet WinCon here. Faber will go down, and now Jorge is going to slug to try and pick off someone else. Maybe if he's able to find Ace, he'll be able to cover, but this exit gate is already open and does not have any eyes. He does have eyes on Ace, who has to play this sort of fake TL. He almost gets body blocked, but this should be the hit. And I don't know if anyone will be in position to actually pick up Nia, but now Jorge is going to try and commit for this slug. I don't know how well this will pay off, but he doesn't have much choice if he wants to meet WinCon. He does find the pickup onto Nia, but goes for a tag onto Sponge instead, who will just zoom off to the exit gate. And now the split pressure here, yeah, Ace gets picked up by Renato. Nia is running off in the distance and just not able to get these downs consistently enough.
Trying to bait out the head-on from whoever is in that locker, looks like. But, yeah, nobody's in that locker is the problem. Forcing those two out. But it looks like Renato was healing Ace, probably to get him out easier, yeah. At least I hope that's what's happening at the moment. Yeah. I don't really see how Jorge can kill either of these two now. It's looking like a 4 escape.
He was playing for WinCon there, didn't have much of a choice, but the survivors were able to play the situation out correctly. Go to the Nodders, and this should be a 5-stage game, as Renato now has his choice of either the gate or the hatch. We got a little bit of a Mexican standoff. Sort of fitting for the saloon theme, honestly, as we're going to play this palette, I guess get a little bit more chase practice in. I'm going to get motion sick watching this at this point.
Yeah, Jorge loves those flicks. It's quite insane, I must admit. I've never seen somebody flick this hard. In this game, specifically, at least. And that's a hatch escape.
Indeed. So that would be the set going also to Eunoia. That would be 4 wins of these sets to Eunoia, with No Loops taking that unknown set. I believe I remember a very convincing fashion as well. But that will be it for the matches, or the match for today. Please come back with us on Saturday and Sunday for the regular season games.